Here we go.
Okay. Welcome. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. This is Christina King with Embracing Your Greatness. I just want to give that information real quickly. If you are interested in getting your free CD, thanks to the generosity of Mark Middendorf, president of Lighthouse Catholic Media, you can just send that email to Kathy at lighthousecatholicmedia.org, or you can contact me and I can put you in touch with them. Their website, www.lighthousecatholicmedia.org, also has a list of all of their CDs, one of which is of my next guest here. This is Father Robert Barron that's joining us with Word on Fire. We have such little time, Father. Are you with us?
I am. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for being on. I don't know if you were able to listen in, but I've been hearing a lot about you, so I'm excited to finally have an opportunity to say hello and to hear all that you're busy at work with and doing. I took a look at your website, Word on Fire, and I noticed that you are in the process of putting together a documentary on Catholicism. Is that right?
Yeah, we're all finished with it. It's a 10-part series about the Catholic faith, and we spent the last, about 3 years working on it. We started filming in June of 2008. We went to 15 countries around the world, and it's a 10-part series. Just this afternoon, I was in a meeting with WTTW, which is the PBS station in Chicago, and they're going to show it in the fall, and we're trying to get it syndicated through them around the country, so I'm really thrilled about that. But the series is going to come out in September. It'll be available around the country.
Now, I noticed that as I was listening to your CD, I think it's nicknamed the YouTube Heresies. Yeah. I want to get a little bit in on Bob Dylan, but can you please tell me, I think that is just phenomenal. I am so impressed and so excited to see you taking advantage of, I'm the person that, like when Martha Stewart went to jail, I said we should buy stock in Martha Stewart, because when she comes back out, she's going to probably even be more successful. I'm the one that said when Apple Computer, was in 1989 when I was in high school, and Apple Computer was the computer I used, and then, when computers first came out, I was the one that said we should be buying Apple, because if they were smart enough to come up with the first computers, I bet you they're going to be huge someday. So when I saw what YouTube was when it first came out, I was like, oh my goodness, this is huge. We need to find a way to utilize this thing.
Precisely, and that's what occurred to me when YouTube came into being, and I just got a donation at that time from a person who said, I'm creative with this. And so at the time, I knew YouTube had just come into being. I thought, well, why don't we just do short commentaries from a Catholic perspective on books, movies, music, popular culture, high culture, and let's see what happens. So that's what we did, and we've made, to date, almost 200 of these now, and covering the whole gamut of things that are going on in the culture, and they've been successful beyond our wildest dreams. And I didn't know who would watch them, if anybody. But the word begins to spread, and the great thing about the internet is, you see something you like, you can send it to 50 of your friends, just like that.
Yeah, and with social networking.
In this viral way, like seed, Mm-hmm. So I just love the opportunity it gives me to proclaim the gospel, and also to find people who would never come to church. So a lot of people on YouTube are, secularized, they haven't been to church in years, they're angry at religion, whatever it is, but they stumble upon a video that I'm doing on a movie they like, or on a musician they like, or whatever, and it draws them in. So that's what I love about the YouTube videos.
I have to agree with you, because I've had the same sense of wanting to do that. Like, I've told my friends that I could probably evangelize anybody with any current movie that's out there in the world today, because I see like this recurring theme that's going on, and I love that you've tapped into that.
Yeah, I believe that very strongly, and you're right, it can go both ways. You look at a movie and say, it's filled with religious longing, it's filled with that thing that St. Augustine saw, that our hearts are restless, so they rest to God. Everyone's hungry for God. And even movies that are negative, that show people's lives, great suffering, well, that's important too, evangelically. To say, look at that person who's followed the path of self-indulgence, or followed the path of violence, or drug abuse, or whatever it is. Look what's happened to that person. And a lot of movies are very good at showing, better than sermons are very often. They say, look what happens when you go down that route. So I use that as well. And I think you're right, that almost anything can be used for evangelization if you have the eyes to see.
Right, and that's the key right there. The eyes to see and the ears to hear. I would have to say on my blog, embracingyourgreatness.blogspot.com, for the listeners, the biggest number of hits of all my blogs are, number one is Lady Gaga's Born This Way, my critique of her video where I go through all of the symbolism and imagery and talk about how she was raised Catholic and how she's utilized deliberate, symbolism. And I have to say, although I get some really negative comments, I'm so glad people are commenting.
Yes, I have the exact same experience. My most popular video was the one I did on Bill Maher's movie called Religious, remember a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, Bill Maher, yeah.
It was a stupid movie. It was an attack on religion. Well, I did a commentary on that, and it's gotten by far the most views. And yes, the commentary is often extremely negative, but it's a way to engage people. Here are people that would never darken the door of a church, but now they can be in dialogue with a priest. And I can say, look, here's why you're wrong, or no, here's a mistake you're making. And I try to be as balanced and calm about it as I can. Very often these comments are very, sharp. But I like that. I like the opportunity it gives me to evangelize people that otherwise we'd never reach.
And you're giving words for other people that want to say something but don't know how to articulate it. So they hear you say it and they say, oh, okay, see, I knew that. I just didn't know how to say it that way. And then they can then go out. And like Mark was saying previously, that remember those STD films we saw, like that they had where they said if you're intimate with this person and that person's been with 6 people, like ultimately you've been connected to like 100, people, and through those 100 people, another 1,000 people. And really, it's kind of the same precept in the sense that one conversation with one person can plant a seed, and it's like a mustard seed, and God, through the gift of the Holy Spirit, can make that blossom later.
Absolutely. And we have access to technology that Fulton Sheen would have given his right arm for. Especially the years Fulton Sheen, with all his power, was on at a particular time. You had to watch TV at that particular hour. Now you get something on the internet, and just like that, it's 24/7 all over the world. And one thing I love about it, too, is we have a number of examples of this, but one young guy wrote to me and he said, Father, I hated religion, I hated the Catholic Church, and I expected it to free. But I like Bob Dylan. And I've done a number of videos on Bob Dylan, because I love Bob Dylan, too. Mm-hmm. And I stumbled on one of your videos. I saw you on there with the Roman collar, and I thought, I'm just going to delete this thing. But he said, I don't know, I watched it, and he liked it, which led him to another video of mine on Bob Dylan, which led him to another video on something else, which finally led him back to the website. And this is, of course, a rare story, but it's a great story. He then entered the RCIA and became a Catholic. And so that's the value of this kind of outreach, that you can find someone like him. Otherwise, you never think of coming to any of our churches or schools or parishes, but we can find him in this way. So that's what I love about it.
And actually, that's one of the comments made by Pope Benedict XVI this week in, the daily addresses that come out from the Vatican, is he said that we need to start looking at commonalities between us and people of other faiths so that we can find a way to begin dialoguing with them.
And the same is true of secularists, people who are just outside of religion, but yet, if Augustine is right, there's always a point of contact. And it's the hunger. And that's approach. I mean, Billy Graham has used it, Fulton Sheen used it, all the great evangelists use it, is to say to people, you've tried, now fill in the blank, whether it's pleasure, money, power, honor, any of the things of the world. You've tried that, haven't you? And it has not made you happy, has it? And then you say, I've got the thing that will make you happy, which is God, the good that we're all hungry for. So that's a point of contact with the secular world, is our very dissatisfaction with all the things in the world that are just not designed to make us ultimately happy.
What I think is interesting is, I don't know if you were able to hear what I was saying at the beginning of the hour. I was talking about how God speaks to us in a language we can receive. Yeah. And I often, and I say that I really believe this is because I was a generation that, because of my very dysfunctional upbringing, I kind of lost myself, and I purposely numbed myself by watching a lot of television and a lot of movies. And listening to music. And so I often hear sometimes a line from a movie that runs through my head randomly, and I used to think that it was totally random, and now I've paid attention to it because I realize usually God is trying to bring my attention to something because it's the language that I formulated my person on growing up all of these years. So I literally now can have something happen and have like a line in my head from a movie, and I'll stop and say, what's that all about? And all of a sudden I get an understanding of what was going on in the dialogue of that movie that makes me then think introspectively about maybe something God's trying to say to me in that moment. And I'm kind of seeing this theme as I was reading your blog on Word on Fire about Bob Dylan and how he was able to go into a communist country and sing words. I mean, I'm sorry. I wish that always had a hard time with Bob Dylan because it sounded like he never opened his mouth all the way. But I liked his.
In recent years, his singing's gotten pretty bad.
But his son is a new artist that is out there, and I remember seeing his son perform once, and I said to my teenage daughter, who's that guy? He's got such a unique performance style. And when she said Bob Dylan's son, that's when I kind of started re-looking at who Bob Dylan was, and as I did so, and reading your blog, I didn't realize his music was so Christian.
Oh gosh, he went through a period in the late 70s, early 80s when he was very explicitly Christian. Even though many of his songs, I mean, across his whole career, have been biblical, I'd say. But there was a period there, very intensely, where he got very explicitly biblical, religious. And those are the songs that he began his concerts in China with. And I found that was extraordinary. Because people back home were accusing him of selling out, that he wasn't playing his protest songs and all this. How about heck his protest songs? He's singing about Jesus Christ in the midst of communist China, where people are being thrown in prison for preaching Jesus Christ. So I thought that was an extraordinary phenomenon.
Maybe we as a society, we as a Catholic people, need to start implementing the same means of which to share and propagate the faith. I mean, they're using music and they're using movies to kind of evangelize our culture to the ways of the world. I mean, here we've got a means of which communist China allows somebody to come into the masses, and bring a message of Jesus Christ being the Savior of all mankind, and that we need to decide who we're going to follow.
Yeah, quite right. And we got to be bold. I think we have to be not belligerent, but bold. And we have to be able, as we were saying earlier, have the ears to hear, the eyes to see what's actually out there, to say, look, that's what we're talking about. Listen to that song, watch that movie, listen to this pop star. There's something in there that is echoing the gospel. We have to be able to hear that and see it, and then without belligerence, but with boldness, to point it out. And that, to me, that's a great lesson of John Paul II. I mean, his style of evangelism was exactly that. It's finding points of contact within the culture and proposing, not imposing, as he said. Proposing to the culture this path, We have to keep doing it because we're in a time of crisis. The sex abuse scandal has been a disaster for the church. And it's hovered over almost the whole of my priesthood. I just had my 25th anniversary as a priest, and we have to come forward precisely now with this bold, confident presentation of the Christian faith.
Oh, thank you so much. We've only got about 30 seconds before the break here. So thank you so much, Father Barron. I wish we had more time because I love the beautiful truth and your energy and your vibrance. Thank you for your 25 years of gift of yourself to the church. And I pray that we have many, many more with you as you utilize all these amazing tools. I hope that maybe you can come to my Facebook page on Embracing Your Greatness and like it so that people can have a direct access to you, or to my blog, embracingyourgreatness.blogspot.com. I really would like for people to have more access to maybe getting some advice from wordonfire.org. Is that the right website?
That's right, yeah.
So that they can find out how they can utilize their gifts and knowledge of technology and internet and evangelization techniques to help. Maybe they don't feel called to be in the spotlight, but maybe they can help bring forth the beautiful treasures. Your documentary, your movie looked beautifully well done. I couldn't believe how awesome it was done. It reminded me of The Human Experience, which I saw this year, that I thought was phenomenal. And
I'm proud of it, and that's what I wanted to do, was do it at a very high level of quality.
Yes, and I pray that Our Lady of Guadalupe, Archbishop Fulton Sheen, Blessed Mother Teresa, and Saint Michael, all and of course, Blessed Pope John Paul II, continue to protect you, sustain you, and fortify you and those at Lighthouse Catholic Media, so that they can bring the healing that the world needs, so that they too can embrace their own greatness. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Patrons of ours, thank you for invoking them.
Oh yeah, well they're my favorites. So we're gonna go for our break at this time, and we come back. We'll just have our final out for the day.
Okay, I said thanks to Father for it.
Oh, thank you.
He didn't have any problem with the static at all from his end, so that was good.
Oh,
You
good.
don't have any static now in 1 minute.
Okay.
And we'll call the phone company in, and hopefully it's something we can fix.
Okay.
Okay. I think it's something else, but you never know. Let's work on the temporal problems.